What's going on, world? And there's some people who know me, and then there are some people who know me. Today's guest, we go back 20 years in the world of real estate, but she's been my husband's friend at least 35 years. I'm pretty sure she wants to give him away, and she would love to keep me. But when you think of a person who has always treated real estate like a business, this would be that person. The reason I have a SEP IRA, a Roth IRA, is because I got tired of hearing this person telling me all about her numbers. So today, I bring to you the immediate past president of the Chicago Association of Realtors and one of the National Association of Realtors liaison, none other than Sarah Ware. What's going on, Sarah?
Nothing, Marky. Lemons-Ryhal.
Nothing. So I remember it could have been more than 20 years ago. I'm looking through the Chicago Sun-Times and I see a picture of you. I knew essentially where you lived, was always kind of driving past your house to try to figure out which one of those houses were your house. I will not tell the block. And the fact that you had a unique real estate brokerage. What makes your brokerage unique?
Well, I think everybody, to clarify, I'm sure everyone thinks their brokerage is unique. I just tapped into a different space, as you know, they always saying niche down, because there's 1.3, 1.5, depending on who you ask, million realtors. I was always trying to figure out how to differentiate myself. And the way I did that is early on, coming out of corporate America, I worked for a firm that was certified as a minority business. And so I worked with him as an admin, his right hand on getting government contracts. And I saw that he built a business with that. Fast forward, getting my license, working for another firm, I based my business on that foundational concept of doing business in the residential space, but getting government contracts to help supplement that. Fast forward 2024, that is 100% of my business today. So I partner as a subcontractor mostly with other firms, because most firms that I come in contact with, they have a full department dedicated to government contracts, and that is who I network with. And I knew that from working in the space for another company in corporate. So I know that there are firms making a whole department out of that are national, global. And so I just wanted a slither of that pie. And so I used my certification as a minority-owned business and a woman-owned business to help get contracts in that space. And I also used my corporate background and the contacts that I've made as an admin in the commercial real estate space to network throughout that and kind of build that, because it takes a lot of networking, a lot of face-to-face, a lot of follow-up, writing proposals and things of that nature.
So now I want to go back to a statement you made. You said a lot of people think that their business is unique. And I want to just say this. They might think they're unique. They're not nearly as unique as you are. First thing, you're a minority woman in the commercial space. Second thing, you're a minority woman in the commercial space who is also a minority woman-owned certified business. And to be quite honest with you, I doubt if I know 10 of you in the world. And
that's a fair statement. That's
10, right? So out of 1.3 to 1.5 million realtor members, and let me come back. That's another differentiator, right? Because everybody in the commercial space is not a realtor member.
Correct.
So let's do that part, right?
They're not a woman. They're not a woman. They don't own their business. That's the number one. They do not own their business.
They do not own their business. So you and I had a conversation the other day. I'm going to bring this up.
As we always do, because we talk every day. So
we talk every day,
I'm
right?
almost nervous about what you're about to say.
No. I'm going to keep it PG all day.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
And you told me because, you know, I'm quick to say I am a CEO, and I am a CEO, right? But you said no, Marky.
I didn't say no,
You
Marky.
didn't say no to Marky. What you said was, I am referring to myself as a principal. Can you tell the audience why you do not read? Because guess what? Here's the thing, Sarah, you got me all the way together, and you heard me within 24 hours telling Stephen, because I'm the principal, because I never thought of it like that. And it's such a great way to think about it. So I want everybody to know, don't go next week and start calling yourself a freaking.
No,
I don't want everybody.
This is my thinking.
Okay.
This is just a decision I made early on. This has nothing to do with anyone else or how they run their business. But I said I'm not a CEO because most CEOs they level up a C-suite. I do not have a C-suite of people yet that I am leveling up. I'm still trying to level up in my company. And I'm not saying that they are not the chief executive officer of that company, but I am fine with being the principal just based on what I've seen in the people that I, kind of moved. That was just something that I liked because it was very nondescript. And the CEO means that I can go apply for the CEO of Coke, the CEO of any, not to say that I can't, but that was just my personal, I don't have anything against anybody calling themselves a CEO because they could have a totally different definition. That was just my personal definition early on. Just like I made the decision early on not to put my picture on my business card. That's just a personal decision that I have made. I've talked through different people about that. That is nothing wrong with that for me, for other people, but it's just that something that I chose as a business decision. So I don't want people to think that I'm thinking that they're a CEO. So that is just the personal decision. Because I like principal. I've always liked principal because it's kind of like, is she the owner? And you want to be a little bit of, have a bit of a mystique. And you already know that I'm real, I wonder what Sarah's doing. I'm just very nondescript, very low key. And that's just me. So it has nothing to do with other people and how they set theirs up. Not to say, though, I am working to get in the C-suite, have a level of C-suite individuals to level them up.
However, I want to come back because it's something else that you just said that stood out to me from a business aspect. When we had the discussion, we had decided that we know a lot of CEOs from an association standpoint and how they have all of these different departments that they are responsible. They're responsible for managing anywhere from 10 people to 100 people, right? And on the day-to-day, we're not managing that many people, right?
I know I'm not, and maybe somebody else is, but I am not.
Well, maybe a CEO for different real estate brands are. Yes. However, when we think about having being a CEO and having a suite of people, I know personally that I lack a suite of people. Do I manage people? Yes, but they're not a part of a C-suite. So I don't have a chief technology officer, and I don't have a CFO and a COO, right? Because that would be the suite of people who are supporting you. And the reason that I'm sharing this is because you remember, I used to tell people that I was an international speaker until a fellow realtor emailed me, Claire. You all might know Claire out of Tucson, Arizona. Claire said, Marky, I think that you need to start referring to yourself as a global because international is 2 countries. Honey, you have touched more than 2 countries. And so I literally got the dictionary right on my phone and researched. I said, oh, I am not international. I am global. So now I want to be a global principal. I'm just letting you know because I don't have a suite of people that I'm managing. But what else you said also stood out is that in the corporate arena, I believe in mirroring yourself to the people in which you're doing business. And oftentimes they do not have their face on their business cards. Actually, I have seen very few CEOs have their face on their business card. So that might be something we want to implement so that it mirrors the title. But
that's kind of why I did that, because in the commercial space, you don't really see their picture on the card. Again, nothing against that. That's just what I came up in the commercial real estate space. I came up under corporate. I came up under Microsoft proposals and things like a very structured corporate environment. And so I just was not used to being in a meeting with a bunch of CEOs. All of a sudden, now you have maybe their team of people. The CEO, if they're in the office, they may pop their head in. But that was kind of where I get that background from. And so it's nothing on people call themselves because I think I applaud that we do need more CEOs out there. That was just a decision that I decided to make early on, just based on who I was doing business with, who I was meeting with. And in the government space, like I was in a meeting with CHA and their CEO was in there, but she had her suite. It was 17 people in that meeting. Like her whole C-suite team was in there pretty much. Us as the contractors, subcontractors, we were all meeting. That was like the kickoff meeting. But as far as from a day-to-day, I'm talking to her COO, things of that nature. So again, not to say that I'm not worthy of the CEO space. That's just something to always, because you always want to be in the mindset of reaching for something bigger than you are. And so I hoped to be there because then that would have means that I have made a C-suite of folks up under me. And, I've taken my business / brand to kind of where I want it to go in the future.
So I'm getting mirroring of the title, looking at how the organization is designed, not having your photo on your business cards, because this podcast is all about social selling and everything you're doing is social selling. But there's one thing that I know about you. Well, I know a lot of things about you, but this one is very interesting. The technology that you use is what corporate organizations tend to use so that you are already apprised of the technology to better communicate with them. And I think that is pretty genius. Recently, someone posted on Facebook they were going to get a new mobile device. And should they get an Apple device or should they get an Android device? And of course, everyone comes and they give you their opinion. And I had a question first. What is your current operating system? Right? And what people don't realize is that a lot of my clientele is 45 to 54. They don't have time to learn a new device and a new operating system, right? Because that requires time. That could require up to 6 weeks, right, to get acclimated to your device. And I told that person, I said, let me be clear. Interest rates, and this was a lender, I said, interest rates have just gone down. Do you want to take a month to get acclimated to a new operating system, or do you want to take a couple of days to get acclimated to a new device? And she was like, yeah. And she knew exactly because it was all about her, right? And her preferred method of communicating. So we have to always keep that client in mind and how we're communicating with them. Now, something else you did that's a little different. You decided to become an avid volunteer and essentially volunteer.
Did I decide or was I voluntold? Did I decide?
Was you, if you were voluntold, was it Zeke who voluntold you? Did you get voluntold?
A little bit, yes, there, and then Women's Council of Realtors.
So you are a past local and state, right?
Not state president, I was state governor, but they don't have governors anymore.
Okay, state governor, and then Women's Council Chicago, right?
Correct.
Past president. What is one lesson that you learned from the Women's Council?
So it's kind of like Women's Council work is like a small business. So you are working with a group of people that are all entrepreneur-minded or entrepreneur in some set of another. Whether you are doing business the same way in the same market, that's another question, but that doesn't have anything to do with it. You're just trying to reach a common goal of getting something done. You're trying to fit the needs of the bring out the mission of the organization, and you're trying to reach a common goal to put on programs that will adhere to the mission, which is uplifting women in the real estate arena. And so I think it was the lessons for me is systems, working together with budgeting and organization. I can plan an event like no other now with little or no money. Fundraising. These are all skill sets that I think as entrepreneurs that whether we use them today or in the future, I think they're just good skill sets to have. And then you find out what you like and what you don't like. So if you wanted to do that in your business, you would say, okay, I don't like the fundraising. So if I wanted to do that, I would need to bring somebody else on to do that. And just budgeting, scheduling, and then dealing with your members as to what it is, how to survey them. So it kind of gives you some sort of taste of how to survey your clients, what they like, what they don't like, and feedback, and just taking some good, bad, and the ugly with all that, and then working together with people that you may or may not, have been working with or knew anything about, and you have to all come together for one common goal.
So from there, right, because now you have the leadership, you know how to do surveys, which I think is very important. Interpret and digest the feedback, right, which often means that you have to come up with some changes. Right. You then are now an immediate past president to Chicago Realtors, which is a mega board, because we have, what is it, over 50, is the measurement 15,000?
I think it's 15,000.
Over 15,000 members. What is the biggest key takeaway now as a past president of a mega association, having to deal with 17,500 members who know how to get your telephone number, your email address, and walk up on you at any given event?
Well, one, you find out the inner workings of the association and what the association side does, from the CEO down to with the membership care people, the school. You find out all the, as they call it, the spokes in the wheel, and how that all comes together, and how you have the CEO in charge of making sure everything is divulged throughout the membership. And then you learn about the membership and what, good, the bad, the ugly. And I think that's with all organizations. And then just being in conversations with other presidents, you get to talk to them, especially those smaller boards, some of the larger boards in different areas of this country, of just how they operate as an organization. Then you find out, like, okay, you may be stuck in a silo thinking that sometimes we don't have all the tools we need. But then when you talk to other organizations, you find out that we are light years ahead of so many other associations as far as the work that they do and the products and things that they have. And I'm a firm believer, and no matter what industry you are, if you're an architect, I think you need to immerse yourself in the policy/volunteer space of whatever sector of business that you're in, because you really find out the inner workings. And that comes to policy, because I think, like McDonald's is a real estate company. I think real estate is more marketing, and it's very policy driven. So if you understand the policies behind some of these rules and regulations, I think it makes you a better professional, it makes you a better entrepreneur, and it makes you better skilled in how to treat your business. Because as a smaller brokerage, oftentimes I would say, well, I can't go up against these larger brokers. But if you go in there talking like you have a conversation, you're talking policy with these developers, you're talking about what laws are being passed, that's more of a conversation that people are willing to have. And they're willing to have yes, that's true. You need to sell, you need to, have all these things. But if you're a new agent and you go into a developer and you're telling them, like, well, this person, they are looking to pass this law to make all new construction items have this sort of charger for EV vehicles, and they didn't know that, or they're looking at you like, wow, you know this, and that how much of a dollar line item that's going to increase their budget. Or if you in a meeting with your alderman in Chicago and you're talking about some housing issues that not necessarily realtor driven, but more policy driven, and downstate who sponsored that bill, you talk to these people and they're like, okay, so they give you a different look, and then they look at you as the thought leader. This just happened today. CBRE is my largest client, and we work a lot on deals that are government and not government related. So today they're looking at and I can't really say the brand, it's a national chain, and they're thinking of closing one in this certain neighborhood, and I'm very familiar with the neighborhood, and so they want me to run a synopsis on the neighborhood, the housing, all of that, and so they want to, and they said, we may not get the deal, but would you be willing to work with us if we need to lease that space or sell that space? So that's kind of an entree. So that has nothing to do with me being certified or a woman. I just been a thought leader for them. I've proven my work, and they know we work well together. And this particular broker, he was referred to another broker in CBRE, and we have not even worked together. So he just shot an email, get back to him, sent him over some stuff from RPR. He thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. And the hope is, whether I work on the deal or not, I just want to make sure my reputation keeps going, because I think a lot of people are looking at certain sectors of business. They want to jump in and expect immediate gratification or immediate results. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And if you continuously to do the work, arm yourself with the information that we have as agents, because that's the biggest tool that we have as practitioners, is our MLS, our RPR, because the data is what they want from us.
Come back for a second, and I'll come back to RPR, which stands for Realtor Property Resource, but I want to go back to the policy, right? Because we're both avid volunteer, we're both major donors, we're both President Circle. This year you are a liaison housing policy, if I'm correct?
Yes.
Housing policy for the National Association of Realtors, and then I'm a FPC Federal Political Coordinator. Policy is so important, right?
Yes.
It's an entirely different conversation. And oftentimes when we're talking about the value proposition of being a realtor member, I'm always going back to policy. The fact that we do have government affairs directors, we have lobbyists that are consistently working on our behalf. And you might recall this. We went down to Springfield together, and they wanted to change a mandate for single family homes. I think it was something to do with essentially like a plumbing certification, right? And we're like, oh no, what? One, the cost. Two, who is going to manage the people coming in to do this, right? And so we get down there, and you never know who's showing up. It could be the plumbing union. Union shows up, right? And we have to fight against this, right? And that is something that no practitioner should or really knows how to do by themselves. So
Right.
we have, 1.3 to 1.5 million members, and we make up this group of people that are able to fight this. Or the time that we went down to Springfield, and it had something to do with sprinkler systems.
Yeah.
And the fire department showed up, and they got all of their trucks. They're in full uniform, and their boots are clicking on the floor, right? And they came in, and it was like, oh my God, right? But we were able to rectify that because we didn't want it to be a mandated sprinkler system in every property, I guess, with 4 or more units. Like, most people could not afford that. So the policy aspect is so important. But you said that you're using RPR.
Yes.
Right? We have all of this information that makes us look good, right? When you think about other resources, RPR is one of your go-to resources, but what else are you using or leaning on when you're working in the commercial sector?
So on the website, the NAR.realtor website, they have the commercial report that comes out. And it's like a full page. I have posted that on LinkedIn. I've had somebody from UPS wanted to know what for their region was, they wanted to know the stats for their region. So I ran them, they hit me up on LinkedIn. So they want to know data. But the website is full of information that comes out because they do a lot of white papers in different areas in Chicago. And then they have the library. If you want them to do some investigating, you can have them research a topic or an article. If you find that you can't get the data, you're skewed. And they have a lot of archive material that you can go back and research, because there's a lot of information that they have, because sometimes, it can be information overload. So I think sometimes you just kind of bite it off in little sections, but I think people are always trying to find the quick fix or the $1.99 fix or this, and sometimes it's right at your fingertips that you already included in your dues for a smaller cost. And then if you're, new and starting out, I mean, you can you don't want to have to pay all these dues and fees and still be successful. And then those are ways that you don't have to, because they have the reports that's already, you can get them in PDF. You can, and sometimes I just kind of take some of the information and dumb it down for them. And then there's this thing called Chat GPT that can summarize some stuff for you. You can put it in your own words. And there's just a lot that you can do with the information to tailor it to the audience that you're working with. And I think, and I found enough information to at least start a conversation. Now, when it gets to other things, of course, there's some data that I may have to pay for some services that I have. But in the entrance, in the entree, you can just get in the door with things that you have, understanding the information and kind of putting it into little snippets that your audience can understand, because that's where we come in as a professional. And even from a commercial standpoint, I've taken CCIM, I've taken some of their classes. I've taken the 100 series, the 101 series, I'm sorry, and then took a break from that. So I may take the 102 because you have to take 101 and pass it and move on. But outside of not wanting to get the full certification, they have some great one-off classes. They have development courses online. They have like some of them are 2 and 3 hours. And I encourage people, like a lot of people are looking to get into the commercial space. That is a great place to start. I took the class in person, and it was pretty much all residential agents looking to get in. And we still to this day have a chat group that we still are part of. But there's other people you can talk to, and then going to the conferences has helped, because sometimes if you're just sitting in Chicago or sitting in where you are only privy to that way of doing business, that information. So you tend to work in a silo. But if you go out to the conferences, talk to other people, I've gone to the CCIM C5 Summit, which was this past year. It was excellent. And I think it'll be in Florida this year. It's open to all, whether you're in commercial or trying to get in. And they had this one breakfast that was focused on women in commercial real estate for the first time. And it was a really good way to kind of network with other women in the commercial space. Some had been in it for years, others just getting started, and then just having that conversation and what to do next. And so I think we can all, that's the beauty about real estate. There's so many different arenas that you can go in. I've chosen the certification route that has kind of led me to commercial. Somebody else may choose property management. Somebody else may residential. It's just so many things that I think just to stay focused on that one niche, you find that out and you focus in on that and just know that like the ins and outs. And then I think that's what kind of makes someone successful. I think that's why I've kind of stayed the course of, it gets rough sometimes. You want to veer off on the shiny new object. And don't get me wrong, some days it's not as good because commercial does take a longer time to close, but the closings are a little bit, more lucrative.
So I know that you are a coach and you consult different organizations. The University of Chicago brings you in. I believe you might have also done some work with Goldman Sachs. Was that correct? Did I say that correct?
No, I did it with, I can't think of the name of it, but not with Goldman Sachs.
Yeah. Well, then I was speaking about myself.
With Kellogg.
With Kellogg.
Yeah. Kellogg.
One, tell people what your website is in case they are looking to hire someone who consults people at the executive level. What's that website address?
It's Ware, W-A-R-E, Ware Realty Group.
And because you did mention ChatGPT.
Yes.
What is one way that a business can leverage ChatGPT today in their business?
So I know there are people that are fans of it and are not. Now, I'm just put a disclaimer out there. ChatGPT is not meant to replace you, because if you don't do some alterations to it, I think it can be a detriment. But just from some basic things like updating your LinkedIn profile, updating your bio, your resume, because dealing with the government, I have to have that quite a bit. And then proposals is the only way that I get business. And so I have to write proposals. And so putting my information in there, I had to submit a shorter bio. And I put in my long bio, they shortened it into, I said, can you please shorten this down to 3 or 4 sentences? And then I kind of altered that. I know a lot of people don't do proposals. So I use it a lot for proposals and just even answering emails, like going back and forth. I had a 200-page appraisal because I'm selling at IDA, their Illinois Housing, their REO properties. And so I'm looking at all their proposals, and it was a 200-page appraisal. And I did read it over, but then I had to put it in. They kind of condensed it down for me. So I was like, yeah, that's what I thought. So it does kind of help because I wanted to do a synopsis of each one and kind of see where he stood and where I felt that was. So I think it cuts down on that. And then for a small business, it helps to have that other person because we do not have the time to do all the things that we need to do to make us look bigger than we are or to get things done. And we don't want to be left in the dark. So using that tool as a buffer or an extra person, that helps. As they say, my chat GPT is my other person. And then now I brought on a project manager. And so it's helping me to manage. It's also now I'm bringing on somebody else. They're going to be part of the social media strategy. And so now it helps me put in a different strategy for each level of business I'm trying to do and segment out that.
And so chat GPT can essentially be the assistant, right?
The assistant.
Your productive, electrifying, trained assistant.
Productive, electrifying, trained assistant.
So everybody, you can connect with Sarah on LinkedIn.
Yes,
she works
heavy.
LinkedIn heavy in the government contractor space, also for commercial real estate. Sarah, I want to thank you for being here, even though we've already talked 2 or 3 times already today. But I'm going to say this. My mother told me as a child growing up, she says, Marky, you do not want to be the smartest person in the room. Right. You want to be the dumbest of the smartest. And so I pride myself on being around people who are smarter than me, who have different, unique perspectives on life and on business. And as a result, Sarah, I've done a very good job with my Roth and my SEP IRA because you was talking them numbers, and I was like, oh, I need to get my business together.
That's the detriment of all businesses is numbers. I hate them. But now Gusto, if people are looking for a payroll, Gusto, I didn't used to run my own payroll, but now I've taken over that because the person ended up retiring. And even though I don't do my taxes, but I run the payroll, and now I'm bringing in somebody every quarter just as a controller to look over my numbers. But Gusto is user-friendly enough to run all my reports for me and my contractors. So I like that.
And I use Gusto too. All right, guys, connect with Sarah.